But all they have to do is twist the wrist. If it says Sunkist, you pick it. Hey, always read the label.
Fresh sun-kissed oranges, now available at Food for Less.
This is WHO TV 13 Des Moines.
Good morning. For East Coast travelers, this Monday's promising bigger headaches than usual. Through the Northeast and Mid-Atlantic states, a fast-paced, very wet storm has moved in, blanketing some areas with more than a foot of slushy snow. You are looking at a live picture from Washington, D.C., where not only has more than a foot of snow already fallen, but many places are without power as well. The good news about all this is that this storm is moving so rapidly, it's expected to quickly make its way out into the Atlantic later today, Monday, February the 23rd, 1987.
From NBC News, this is Today with Bryant, Gumbel, and Jane Pauley.
And good morning. Welcome to Today on this Monday morning, along with the usual Monday morning blahs. If you look out your window, you'll feel worse. Anything you've got in your closet, we suggest you wear it this morning if you're living up and down the Atlantic coast. John Palmer's going to tell us just how bad that storm is in just a little bit from the news desk, and after him, Joe Witte will tell us just how much longer we have to put up with it. Then following that on Close-Up at 7:09, we'll introduce you to and speak with the first Democrat to officially declare himself a candidate for his party's presidential nomination in 1988. His name is Richard Gephardt, congressman from Missouri. Jane?
Also coming up, L.A. Law's Harry Hamlin. Bob Bazel's Today's Discovery Report is, if you're ready for this, about mummies. And then after 8, we'll report on compulsory testing for AIDS.
And later in this half hour, we'll be talking with two of this nation's governors about the suddenly hot topic of welfare reform. We'll get to that later. Let's move to the news desk. Start the Monday morning with John Palmer. Good morning, John.
Brian, Jane, thanks. Good morning. There are renewed indications this morning that White House Chief of Staff Donald Regan is close to being forced out. This as the Tower Commission prepares to release what is expected to be a highly critical report on the Iran-Contra affair. White House correspondent Andrea Mitchell standing by with a report. Good morning, Andrea.
Good morning, John. Well, the only remaining question is whether Donald Regan is forced out immediately before the Tower report is issued on Thursday or after the report, as he now would prefer. But close friends of the Reagans and at least one cabinet member have told NBC News that the president has finally decided to get rid of his chief of staff.
Mr. Reagan performed on cue at a dinner for the nation's governors after a weekend when his wife was calling friends for advice on how to get rid of Regan. Mrs. Reagan is known to think that Regan should leave before the report is issued so that he can say he wasn't fleeing from its expected criticism. Regan is telling friends he is needed to orchestrate the president's response to the report. And he's openly critical of Nancy Reagan, telling aides that she has hurt her husband by keeping him out of the public's eye for the past month. Torn between his wife and his chief of staff, the president is ready for change. Former Senator Paul Laxalt has told him he would come in to run things, with former cabinet member Drew Lewis as his number 2 man for 6 months to set up a new organization. Energy Secretary John Harrington is the favorite of Attorney General Ed Meese. Others are suggesting former legislative aide Kenneth Duberstein.
The Reagans may still turn to the man that they believe had mastered the art of being Ronald Reagan's chief of staff, Treasury Secretary James Baker. Baker is known to be very reluctant to take the job and leave one that he loves, but if pressed by the Reagans, it would be very hard to say no. John?
Thanks, Andrea. Congressional investigators looking into the Iran-Contra affair say they want to question Fawn Hall. She is the former secretary of Lieutenant Colonel Oliver North. Ms. Hall reportedly helped shred documents dealing with the Iranian arms deal. Joseph Begun, a Jewish activist in the Soviet Union, returned to his home and to his friends this morning after being freed from prison. Steve Hurst reports now from Moscow.
Dissident Jewish activist Joseph Begun back in Moscow this morning. Released early from prison, but undaunted, vowing to continue his work on behalf of Soviet Jews.
I am going to continue my activity for rights of my people in this country, in all the world, for rights Soviet people to be in Israel with...
He's out of jail as part of a limited Kremlin amnesty for political prisoners, but he was the last man held on those charges to be freed from Chistopol prison. Begun might still be in prison if not for his wife Ina and son Boris, with him here this morning. The KGB was at Kazan station in Moscow again this morning, its video camera rolling. The secret police also brought in snowplows again today, but they failed this time to break up the gathering of well-wishers and Western reporters. Begun said he did not promise the Soviets anything in return for his release.
I wrote them that I am not guilty. I was not guilty. I never violated the law in this country.
These are happy days for Baygun and the other political prisoners released early. But it remains to be seen if the Kremlin will honor its pledge to make emigration easier for the thousands and thousands of other Soviet Jews who want to leave the country. Steve Hurst, NBC News, Moscow.
In this country, the film, television, and theater worlds are mourning the death of David Susskind, a producer and one of the country's earliest and best-known talk show hosts. Susskind had been under a doctor's care for a heart ailment. He was 66. A heart attack has also claimed the life of pop artist Andy Warhol, whose images of Campbell's soup cans and Brillo pads created a revolution in art. More on the life and contributions of Andy Warhol in this report from Jennifer McLogan.
Andy Warhol threw tradition out the window when he left Pittsburgh in the early 50s for the New York art world, a world he turned on end when his images of soup cans created the pop art revolution.
He would just say, "It's awful and I love it." It's kind of the essence of what became known as camp.
Some art historians say Warhol proved there was art in everyday life and that the glitter of the rich and famous could be captured in color and design.
I don't know if he was more important as an artist or a personality.
Warhol was a look unto himself, an image of what was new and always offbeat.
You could take a Polaroid and the next day you would have a painting. It was something unbelievable.
His multimedia talents included rock and roll videos and feature-length motion pictures, which he filmed and produced.
His filmmaking, his classic pop pieces always seemed to cause some kind of ruffle.
Warhol once said, "Everyone will be famous for 15 minutes. His legacy of controversy will last much longer."
Nobody will say, "Who is he?" They'll know.
Jennifer McLogan, NBC News, New York.
And as Bryant reported at the beginning this morning, the big story for many people living along the eastern seaboard is the weather. We have now a live picture from 42nd Street and the West Side Highway in New York City. Washington, D.C. was hit very hard overnight, more than a foot of snow there. Federal office buildings in the nation's capital closed today. Snow, heavy snow in Baltimore, Philadelphia, and up, as you can see now, into New York City. The fast-moving storm moved up from Kentucky through Maryland and then all up the eastern seaboard. That's the way it looks right now. It is 7:16. Here's Bryant Gumbel.
You can hear the laughter in California and Florida from here, can't you?
And we know who that is.
Yeah, Willard is down there enjoying the warm sunshine. It's pretty ugly out there, right?
It is nasty, isn't it? Especially after yesterday it was 49 degrees with sunny skies in New York City.
It was nice. And I said it's very wet snow. I mean, that's not being redundant.
It is. It is really wet, and that's causing some power outages and causing a real mess at some of the airports because the snowplows are having to push this 1 foot or better of snow out of the way. And right now, Dulles Airport is closed. National, well, you're going to have to wait for a little bit. There are limited operations right now. Philadelphia has limited runway service, and I wouldn't be a bit surprised there's going to be more delays in New York City. Boston, you're going to be on the northern edge of this, just an inch or two there, so travelers to Boston shouldn't have much problem today. But if you're trying to fly in or drive into New York, Philadelphia, or Washington, give yourself some extra time. You're going to need it. A foot or more of snow here. In some places, Wilmington, it snowed 3 inches in 1 hour, and they have so far 13 inches of snow on the ground. That's not the only snowstorm. Way out west, another one over the Rocky Mountain states. We have winter storm warnings for the mountains of Montana, Idaho. There's going to be 6 inches or more, even snows in the valleys here. Not as strong as the one on the east coast. However, this one will remain over the west for much of the week. Far out west, windy along the coast, San Francisco 56 degrees. Even L.A. a little cool at 67 degrees. And down over to Phoenix, 61 degrees with some rain showers not too far away. The best place to be, the nation's midsection, sunny skies, feeling much like spring. That's the national weather. Now here's what's happening in your neighborhood.
Good morning, everyone. This is meteorologist Tim Hedrick. Mostly sunny and mild today. Winds out of the southeast at 10 and a high temperature near 45 degrees.
And please do drive with care in the snowy situation, and I'll have more on the snow in the next half hour. Now here is Jane Pauley.
Thank you, Joe. And on Close Up this morning, presidential politics. At noon today, in his hometown of St. Louis, Missouri Congressman Richard Gephardt will become the first Democrat to formally declare for the nomination. And for those of you who might be saying, who is Richard Gephardt? We'll let our NBC national political correspondent Ken Bodie explain.
Dick Gephardt begins as a classic long shot. No member of the House has won the presidency since James A. Garfield in 1880. But he knows that, His wife and family are on board. They all signed his announcement statement today, and the family spent last summer's vacation in the family van crisscrossing Iowa, where the first caucuses take place a year from now.
Iowa Democrats, this is our time. Our time to care about one another. Our time to make the decisions. Our time to be committed to the future.
It is retail one-on-one politics in Iowa, and Gephardt figures if he can win, place, or show here, he's on his way. Who is Dick Gephardt?
My father was a milk truck driver in St. Louis. My mom was a secretary.
He looks like an Eagle Scout, and was. In college, student body president, and king of the May. He went into city politics, came to Congress 10 years ago, quickly worked his way into the Democratic leadership.
He's a member that is willing to listen to what other people have to say.
Fellow House members like Tony Coelho admire Gephardt enough to be out campaigning for him.
We know that he is the type of individual who can bring all the factions of our party together from throughout the country.
He has been a successful legislator and an idea man. Hospital cost containment, Graham-Rudman, trade, all got his attention. The current tax law stems from ideas originally thought up by Gephardt and Senator Bill Bradley. One issue that may cause Gephardt trouble is abortion. He's against it, also against federal funding.
I believe we should concentrate federal dollars at helping people avoid abortion.
Gephardt favored a nuclear freeze and opposes Contra aid. After his announcement in St. Louis today, he leaves for yet another trip to Iowa. He's been there so often that he is called Iowa's extra congressman. But he needs help there. The latest Des Moines Register poll shows Gephardt at just 3%. And the picture next to his name, well, it's that of a senator from Nebraska.
And joining us this morning from our NBC affiliate in St. Louis, KSDK, is the candidate himself, Richard Gephardt. And good morning, Mr. Candidate.
Hi, Jane. How are you?
We're fine, thank you. As Ken pointed out, the only man who has ever gone directly from the House of Representatives to the White House was Garfield, which is to say it's practically unprecedented. Why do you think you can do it?
Well, I think that being from the House today is even an advantage. We're going to have 25 House members out here today with me announcing my candidacy. They are working for me in their districts along with others, and they are raising money to help me run for president. So I think that being in the House may even be an advantage today when you have to run in so many places in such a short period of time.
Let's fast forward a little bit. Can you picture yourself sitting across the table from General Secretary Mikhail Gorbachev?
Oh, I can, and I think that we have an opportunity that we should take advantage of in the years ahead in order to try to be able to reach long-term contracts with the Soviet Union. Gorbachev seems to be a leader who understands that to bring his country into the 20th century economically, he's got to stop spending as much as he is on arms. That gives us an opportunity to write an arms control agreement that's in our self-interest.
While we're in the 1990s doing our projecting, what would be the crowning achievements of the first year of the Gephardt administration?
Well, Jane, I think that if America is to meet the challenges of the future, we've got to have the most educated people in the world. And what a Gephardt presidency would be noted for would be having a national goal of having that result, the most educated people. I would try to pass in the Congress sensible programs to increase our literacy rate. I would like to have everybody in this country literate by the year 2000. I would worry about a national strategy for training, and I'd worry about new ideas for research and development. We need to have the best and the latest ideas if we're to be commercially competitive with our trading partners. I also think we need to have a trading system in this world that's fair for us. We can no longer put up with a trading system that has other markets closed while our market is open.
Well, I guess I should bring us right back to the present day and the reality, as Ken pointed out, 3% in Iowa after a lot of strenuous campaigning. Who stands in your way now that Mario Cuomo, for instance, has dropped out? How many guys standing ahead of you?
Well, Gephardt is clearly the front runner. He ran before, and obviously his name identification is very high. But each of us has a chance. If we're willing to go do the work, if we can come across with a message or a theme that makes sense to people, I think I have a great chance to win in Iowa and go through the rest of the process. I really feel that America is ready for new leadership. They're ready for new ideas. They're ready for people that haven't been on the scene. I've had many people say to me, Ronald Reagan made us feel good. Now we want to know what it's going to take to be good. And I think the message that I will bring in this election and the kind of leadership that I've been able to show in the House of Representatives is what the people are looking for in 1988.
Well, thank you very much, Congressman Gephardt. The race is on, and have a good campaign.
Thank you.
We'll be back in a moment. This is Today on NBC.
For a delicious meal, you just can't find a better place than The Choice All-You-Care-to-Eat Smorgasbord. A bountiful soup and salad bar, large variety of entrees, open flame broiler with barbecued ribs, evenings and Sundays, there's even shish kebabs and royal roast baron of beef. Now The Choice introduces for lunch and dinner Oriental stir-fry shrimp, a delicious blend of shrimp and crisp vegetables stir-fried on the grill. All this under $4 for lunch, under $5 for dinner. Try The Choice All-You-Care-to-Eat Smorgasbord. 1801 22nd Street.
An emergency sale message from World Radio.
Hello, I'm Juan Roque, General Manager of World Radio, and I'm not going to beat around the bush. Business is tough, sales are not great, and as a result, inventory is way too high. This is not a problem, this is an emergency, and I'm going to deal with it the best way I know, by cutting prices on every item in stock.
Buy this Panasonic VCR with wireless remote, only $249.
We're serious about selling this inventory, so we're going to do whatever it takes. This sale will convince you that World Radio is the right store.
These days, you hear a lot of noise from herbicide companies. Noise about their prices, noise about saving money, and a lot of noise about costing less than Dual and Bicep. But with our rebate program, this year you can save $2 a gallon on Dual and $1 a gallon on Bicep. And if you're interested in the best possible weed control, that's the kind of noise you want to hear. The Dual and Bicep rebate program. See your dealer for details.
Man, if we're going to convince real picante sauce lovers like him that our sauce is as good as Pace, we've got to learn to act like them.
But, sir, Pace is the one made with fresh vegetables and spices by people in San Antonio who know what picante sauce should taste like.
That's why we've got to keep practicing. Again.
Get along, little doggies. Howdy, partner.
Pick up the original. Pick up the Pace.
Back now at 17 past the hour to talk of welfare reform. It's been tried before without success, but now the momentum is so strong, changes in the system seem certain. One of the groups in high gear on the issue is the National Governors Association Task Force on Welfare Prevention, which has been meeting in Washington. Republican Governor Michael Castle of Delaware is chairman of that task force. He joins us from the nation's capital, along with Democratic Governor Gardner of Washington, a state where welfare reform is already in the works. And good morning to both of you.
Morning. Good morning, Bryant.
Before I ask Governor Castle to explain the key elements of what the governors are working on, Governor Gardner, can you tell me why welfare reform is suddenly such a hot issue?
Yeah, there's two reasons. One, that most states are experiencing a relentless growth in caseloads, and one that if it doesn't get control, will bankrupt states eventually. And secondly, the present plan provides people with no hope of financial self-sufficiency. And so you take those two factors, and it just drives you to the conclusion that someone now has to come up with some way of helping people be better off working than they are staying at home.
Okay, using that as a basis, Governor Castle, what are the key elements of this program that the nation's governors are going to be asked to adopt on Tuesday?
Well, essentially, Bryant, as everybody knows, welfare has been an income system. You get food stamps, you get AFDC, aid to family-dependent children, and Medicaid. And what we are trying to do is to make that a minor part of it. We're trying to make the major part an education component, a training component, a job orientation component, so that people will have the opportunity to go out, to get back into society, and to make sure they're contributing.
Those ideas sound wonderful, but you run upon some of the same stumbling blocks that have hurt other reform efforts, such as costs, such as wonderment if the jobs are there, such as who gets the jobs.
Well, that's completely correct, and we have to make sure that the jobs are there. But we have found in the states which are doing it, and a number of states are doing it now, that if we do train people, that there are job opportunities. That if we make sure that people have the skills, that indeed they can go out and they can find a job. It works. It gets people off welfare. It gives them a better opportunity.
Governor Gardner, in your state where you're already experimenting with some reform, how's the cost being shared?
Well, first of all, we're doing it budget neutral, which means that we have to go out and recognize there's two parents that conceive children, and there has to be strong support enforcement efforts. And secondly, we subsidize it through earned income. In other words, by putting people to work, they're helping pay for their own income assistance. The key is to make people better off working the state at home, which means you have to have an incentive program that allows people to see the light of day while they're gaining work experience and self-esteem.
You've got, those are all noble goals, but we're talking here about long-range programs, we're talking about training facilities, we're talking about increased daycare centers. How do those long-haul goals fit in with the constraints of modern-day Graham-Rudman?
Well, that's a good question, because obviously there would be some additional money, perhaps as much as $500 million in the first year and $1 billion in the second year. But many of us feel that that money can be made up for by looking at other programs and trimming how those things are done. And long-term, Bryant, when you have people who are contributing to society, instead of taking money out of society, it will be a cost saving, not a cost factor. I believe that the White House will go along with this. As a matter of fact, the President told us last night that our programs for welfare reform are his programs. Senator Moynihan has indicated that he believes it's something that we can do. I believe it can be fit in. It's a small, new increment of money when you compare it to all the cost of welfare today.
That raises a very good point, and Governor Gardner, maybe you can answer it for me. I mean, given that the White House is working on its plan and Congress is working on its plan, what's it really mean whether or not the governors approve this initiative or not on Tuesday?
Well, it means that the governors are the ones that have to deliver. AFDC, or welfare, is a joint venture between the feds and the states, but the states implement it. And if the states are behind it and are closer to the people and can be the creative elements in this process, it's going to work.
You'll be meeting with the President later today. Any other items on the agenda pressing besides welfare reform, to your mind, Governor Castle?
Well, there's a number of other items that we're always concerned about. We're always concerned about the economy, the budget of this country, the various things that make up all the components that we deal with in the states, for instance, the highway funding and matters of this nature. But welfare reform will be the topic. That's already been announced. In another 2 or 3 hours, we'll be discussing that with the President and hopefully refining what we're working on.
Anything you'd quickly add to that list, Governor Gardner?
Just trade. We're a world economy now, and particularly the coastal states have a strong stake in the trade element, and we have to be more professional in that process.
Well, gentlemen, you've got a busy day ahead. We'll let you get to it. Governor Booth Gardner and Governor Michael Castle, thank you both for being with us.
Thanks, Brian.
7:22 right now. We'll come back after a break. This is Today on NBC.
Well, the 4-hour cough medicine didn't last me through the day.
I know.
The 6-hour didn't last me through the night.
I know, Alan.
Why doesn't somebody invent
A
it?
12-hour cough medicine? Somebody has, Alan.
Discover 12-hour Delsum. Only Delsum has a patented time-release formula that lasts up to 12 hours for hours more relief than regular cough medicine.